Listen up, speakers. Are you tired of hearing? We'd love to have you speak, but there just isn't a budget for you right now. Well, the group may not have the bucks, but there are sponsors who do, and putting speakers, sponsors, and clients together may have just gotten easier. My guest today does that with a program called Speaker Sponsor, and the simplicity of it may surprise you. We'll hear from her right after my public speaking tip of the week, so stay tuned.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at last! Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Each one of you has your own platform. Mine is a stage in a studio. Yours is wherever you are.
Welcome to Full Speech Ahead, the program where we look at communication in all its many facets, with an emphasis on the spoken word. I'm your host, public speaking coach Milo Shapiro from publicdynamics.com. Before we get to my guest today on how to find paid speeches through sponsorship, here's my public speaking tip of the week. A lot of people have heard that speakers are being encouraged to get away from the lectern. Well, I fully agree in my coaching. Audiences are wanting to connect with you as a speaker, and this means being open with them and breaking down barriers between you. Well, that lectern is a big old physical barrier, and it creates an emotional one in the process. When we allow ourselves to just be on the stage area, we're letting people in, and in response, they let us in. Okay, but what about your notes? Where will you put them? Well, I'm hoping you're not just reading your entire speech anyway, and that they really are just notes. So here's what you'll do. Give the lectern a 1/8 turn, so it's on an angle. This allows you to walk away from the lectern and then go back over to glance at your notes without ever going behind it. It's an effective idea for helping both you with your notes and never cutting you off from the audience. And by the way, the proper name for the thing is lectern. No matter how many people mistakenly call it a podium, professional speakers know that a podium is something you stand on, not behind. So it can't hurt to use the right word. Okay, on to this week's interview. My guest today is Julie Austin. Julie is an award-winning author, inventor, and innovation speaker. Julie and her products have appeared on The Today Show, The Queen Latifah Show, HGTV, Lifetime, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox News, and The Wall Street Journal, along with dozens of TV shows, magazines, and radio shows around the world. She's an innovation keynote speaker and trainer. Julie comes from a background in the TV and film industry and has had jobs as diverse as commercial actor, TV host, TV film distributor writer, so she knows the creative as well as the business side. Her new book, The Money Garden, How to Plant the Seeds of a Lifetime of Income, is currently available on Amazon. She's also the CEO of Speaker Sponsor, which is going to be a focus of today's program. I'll say it again later, but just for reference, you can learn more about Julie at www.speakersponsor.com. And with that, Julie, welcome to Full Speech Ahead.
Thank you.
I found the stuff that you sent me when we were chatting back and forth, and we met through the National Speakers Association. I found this stuff really interesting. Let's backtrack a little bit. A lot of people who have a message or a product don't think about speaking as an opportunity for them because they think, who's going to want to come and hear an hour-long sales pitch? And as you and I know, that can't be what it is. There's got to be value in it. So what is it about speaking? How do people make it as a speaker when they have a message?
I think speaking is where you bring value and entertainment to that audience, to whoever that audience is. They come to hear you speak about a particular topic. And you know, it's not just information, it's knowledge, but it also is entertainment.
Very true. Yeah, it really is. Now, a lot of the times the hope is, as the person doing that, you may or may not have anything that's a product or much in the way of product. What you really want to do is get paid to be there to do the speaking. Right. And that's kind of where you come into it. The goal, of course, initially for most people who are speakers, and as someone who's done both motivational and informational speaking, my hope is that there's someone ready to cut a check to me as soon as I either get the call from them or do a sales pitch to them. But that's not always the case. Sometimes they'd love to have you, but there's we don't have the money right now. I've even heard, oh, our charter doesn't permit us to pay speakers. We're looking for free speakers. And what's in that for the speaker?
Well, I got to tell you, I made a phone call today to, I don't remember the name of the organization, but it was
Probably for the best.
It was something like the Organization for Alleviating Poverty, and they did not pay speakers.
They're not going to do much to alleviate poverty in my household then.
I said, so how are we ever going to get over that if, I don't speak for free? This is why, I want to get paid.
Sure.
So, yeah, what was the question?
Well, you kind of worked with it. There was the idea that we're hoping that people will have a budget for it. But it's not always the case. We find service groups. We find even within companies, we have audiences we'd like to have hear our message. We think we'd help them. And even the person on the receiving end would love for us to come. They just simply don't or can't pay us. So that's when a group like Speaker Sponsor comes in. And now I'm going to let you do the talking for a little bit. Tell us what Speaker Sponsor is.
Well, that's exactly how Speaker Sponsor came along, is because so many meeting planners were telling me that either they didn't pay speakers or they didn't have it in the budget to pay speakers or whatever the case was, they just did not pay. And so I said, well, I don't speak for free, so how can we work around this problem? I said, what if I get my own sponsor? And that doesn't have anything to do with you. Whatever money I get, if it's $100 or $1,000, that's between me and the sponsor. And there's nothing really that you have to do. I will do it on my end. But that way I guarantee that I get paid. And the first time I ever did that, I got a game company to sponsor me, and they were thrilled to be a sponsor, to get in front of this target audience.
So let's talk about that before you go on. What makes something a great target audience for them? And I do want to come back to that point, but that's such a key factor. What makes a target audience for a sponsor?
Well, for example, this particular audience was about 50 to 100 girls who were in math and engineering. They were interested in that kind of career. And so the sponsor was a video game company, and that's not exactly the same, but they wanted to get their brand known in front of this target audience. So if it was 100 moms in the audience and you have a product that is for moms, that is as targeted of an audience as you can get. And this is why speakers really have a valuable property. This is something very valuable that sponsors would love to get in front of.
So it's kind of incumbent in two ways, that the company has to know who their target market is, which they probably do, but speakers also have to kind of think, who's a logical company to approach that would have that? And we don't necessarily have that demographic information. We have to use our own creativity to say, is this company a fit?
Right, exactly.
Unless we use Speaker Sponsor, I just realized, can you probably take care of a lot of that for us? I'm going to let you continue where you left off. So how does Speaker Sponsor as an organization fit into that?
Well, Speaker Sponsor started out, this was my original business model, was to charge, I believe it was $47 a month. And I would literally pick up the phone for every single member and get them a sponsor. And it became overwhelming. It was killing me because it is a lot of work.
I bet.
I mean, I did it and I got them sponsors, but I'm only one person and I just couldn't do it. So what I decided to do was to turn it into a directory where I drive traffic to the site and I get my sponsors, the people that I know, and from the business, being in business for 20 years, I have a ton of small business contacts. So I drive them to the site, and it's up to the speakers to put their profile in there the way they want to be seen and their opportunities for the sponsors.
That makes sense. You said how you had the idea for yourself to get a sponsor. How did you have the idea for Speaker Sponsor for others as a business? I knew people who have done it for themselves. They found a sponsor for someone. You're the first person I've come across who does it as a business to help others.
Well, what happened was I was going to all of these conferences, and they're easy. It's easy to get the free speaking gigs. It really is pretty easy to, if you're a good speaker, they would love to have you come in and speak for free, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so many times I was the only speaker that got paid other than the keynote speaker. And people went, "What? That's not fair. Why did you get paid?" I said, "Well, they didn't pay me. I got the sponsors myself." "Well, how do you do that?" So that's how it came up, you know, the whole idea started.
That makes a lot of sense. And there's so many questions. I'm sure anyone who has done speaking or has thought about speaking but never thought of a way of monetizing it is just about salivating. So I just can't even tell you how many questions I have for when we get back. So stay tuned, and right after this break, we'll continue with Julie Austin.
Got photos that need improvement? Freshen your photo. Old family shots that have gotten damaged? Freshen your photo. Want someone or something removed from a picture? Freshen your photo. At freshenyourphoto.com, we turn the pictures you have into the pictures you want. Add muscle, lose weight, lighten face lines, whiten teeth, fix darker off-color shots. See before and afters from dozens of happy customers at freshenyourphoto.com. That's freshenyourphoto.com.
Welcome back. We are talking to Julie Austin about being sponsored as a speaker so it doesn't fall upon the person who wants you to speak to their group to have all the cash on hand. There are other ways. So speaker sponsor, from what I understand so far, helps put together the sponsors and the speakers, and that makes everybody happy. What's the first thing, Julie, that you would tell speakers about sponsorship?
Well, I would tell speakers that there is a sponsor for everyone. You know, the first thing most people think about when they think about sponsorship is big Fortune 500 companies. And the truth is, most of what I do is small business sponsorship. There are over 28 million small businesses just in the U.S. alone. And my first small business sponsor was actually from Europe. And, you know, there really is something for everyone. Now,
was it an American audience, or was the person speaking in Europe?
No, they wanted to get into the American market.
Oh, interesting.
So that's how I got that sponsor. And it was for a small business, it was a $60,000 sponsorship. So
not bad.
That's not bad. That's,
no.
Not always normal, but it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But, there really is something for everyone. I have some sponsors who come to my site who are a little edgy and a little wacky, so they're not looking for the typical speaker, but that's really kind of unusual. Most sponsors like to keep things a little more conservative. They don't want to rock the boat too much.
Well, that makes sense. They want to make sure they're going to come out good in all of it. One of the things I was curious is it all a behind-the-scene thing? They just want to see you speak? How does the sponsor get their name out to the audience in the process? Does it just say in the program sponsored by so-and-so, or is it like the 50s where you drop the product name in here and there? How does that work?
You do. There are a ton of different ways to do it, and it falls on the speaker to do a lot of this. And I know it sounds like, well, you're going to go and speak. You shouldn't have to do extra work on top of that. But I'll tell you what happens is that when you are promoting your sponsor, you're promoting yourself at the same time. And what you'll find is that, yes, it is work to promote that sponsor, but, I really benefit a lot when I get a sponsor. Not only does it look good, that I'm the only person at the whole entire conference who has a sponsor, and people are going, well, what's special about her? Why does she have a sponsor? No one else does.
And they know this coming in. They go, so-and-so is speaking, and Julie is speaking sponsored by Kellogg's. I mean, they know that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
How do they know that? Is it in the program?
It's in the program.
It is, okay.
Yeah, it's in the program. It's on the website. And, I think it stands out, actually. But anyway, it does fall to the speaker to do a lot of this promotion.
So they have to get the word out that obviously that they have been sponsored. I'm assuming the client has to buy into that he's willing to accept that there will be little droppings of things like that in return for getting a speaker either for free or greatly reduced price.
Right. And, in the beginning and the end of your speech, you just, thank you so much to my sponsor, XYZ company, for allowing me to be here today. And, you could have, different things like, company brochures, or it depends on how much the meeting planner will let you do.
Mm-hmm.
I say you do as much as you possibly can because you're speaking for free.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing that meeting planner a great speaker, which is you, and a great topic, great content. So they owe you. They do owe you something.
I think they should have to put up with pretty much anything short of you never getting to your speech and just talking about the product. So you mentioned,
Exactly.
So you just mentioned them as a thank you sponsor. It's not like you find reasons to mention them throughout the speech as a resource, or does that come up too, or is it a case by case?
I think it's a case by case. Sometimes it actually, you can integrate things into your speech a little bit without anything sounding like an infomercial. But basically, it's just a thank you to my sponsor. It's really quick, keeping it away from being an infomercial type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense. And I would think that the audience probably just hears that, acknowledges it, and moves past it. It wouldn't feel heavy-handed in a situation like that.
Because then you're getting right back into the same situation of doing an infomercial, and you don't want to do that.
Sure. What sort of small businesses would sponsor a speaker? Because it seems like the big ones would have the bucks to do it, but where do the small companies come into this?
Well, I'll tell you, my first small business sponsorship, when I went out on my own, one of the first was an ad agency. So it was a small to medium sized ad agency that nobody had ever heard of, and there's no reason that you can't go for those kind of companies here. I'll tell you, one of my members got a sponsorship from a vitamin company, and they have stores in 20 states. So that's not terribly small.
That's not that small.
But it's also not a Fortune 500 company.
Hmm. Do you get people who want to sponsor who are very specific to the city they're in? For instance, I'll just use my city. Someone who's a San Diego business, and they could care less if I spoke to somebody, in Seattle. But if I was speaking in San Diego to their target market, then they would be interested, or is that too fine focus?
Oh, no, I think that's perfect. It's actually, I found it to be easier to do it that way. I had one member who was speaking to about 700 high school students, and this was in Alabama. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, who would want to, what kind of company would want to get in front of high school students? And I thought, well, what about a tutoring company? And so I started calling tutoring companies. I called a very small company. I mean, she was one employee. And she said, well, I don't really care about getting in front of the high school students, but what if you could get me in front of the parents? That I would be interested in. So I found a way to get her business in front of all of those 700 students' parents. She was absolutely thrilled. And this I thought was, this was very local. It was just in that one city. It wouldn't have worked anywhere else.
And the speaker didn't even have to get on a plane to get to there because it was the hometown advantage.
Right, exactly.
That's great. I'm curious about how established the speaker has to be versus the people who are listening to our program are like, I really could see myself doing this. When we get back from this break, I want to talk about how established you need to be to find corporate sponsorship. So we're going to look at that as soon as you return after this.
Not another boring conference.
Liven it up with IMPROVentures and the fun of improvisation. Check out motivational speeches and entertainment that get everyone learning through play and laughter. For smaller groups, Teamprovising is our teamwork and communication program with more feedback and fun. Plus public dynamics, keynotes, training, and coaching on public speaking skills. You can be more effective in front of groups. Learn more today.
IMPROVentures, 619-542-0761, or see videos at IMPROVevents.com.
We are back with Julie Austin in the third segment of our program, Full Speech Ahead. And where we left off, I was asking, is this only for people who've been doing speaking for, 20, 30 years, and they're the Zig Ziglars and the other kind of names that we know, or can anybody do this?
Oh, it's definitely not just for established speakers. In fact, the very, very first time I ever spoke in front of an audience, I made $2,500 because I had sponsors. And if you had seen what I did, it was a 30-minute speech where I used note cards.
Ouch. As a public speaking coach, that hurts to hear.
I know. There's no way I can use that. I can use that video. But $2,500 I made because I had those sponsors for the very, very first time I ever spoke in front of an audience. So
Amazing.
That's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all. That's terrific.
Yeah, it's for everyone, really.
But saying that then, how do the sponsors measure the quality of the speaker if you're saying it doesn't have to be an established speaker?
Oh, wow. That is a very good question. Because they can see your, hopefully you have a video, you have a track record, you have testimonials, I mean, if you're just starting out, honestly, I guess they're rolling the dice.
Okay.
And I was pretty lucky. I had a good track record in other ways. Mm-hmm. So I had a TV background as a TV host.
So it does fall upon the speaker to impress the sponsor that it's worth it. That's not a speaker sponsor responsibility. I mean, you have to have that material to show them.
Exactly.
So a certain amount of establishment would probably be there, if not, again, being the next Zig Ziglar.
Well, I mean, if you're going to speak in front of a group of moms and you have, 5 kids, I would say that you are an expert.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Or you should be by then.
But you should at least probably at that point have a camcorder version of you speaking to other moms, something.
Yes.
So they know what they're getting. That makes sense. How about small business sponsorship versus large corporations? I know we talked about the fact that the people think of the big ones, but do you think that does it fall upon us to be more open to the small ones, or is that really just something that speaker sponsor takes care of, and anyone who's willing to pay the fee, we shouldn't worry about it on our end?
Well, honestly, mostly what I do is small business sponsorship.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't have big corporations. I mean, I do know these people, but I can tell you it's 10 times harder to go after those large corporations, even for me. Even when I have their home phone numbers, it's still hard to get through to them and to, they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But someone like the vitamin company, they were thrilled to take my call. The tutoring company was thrilled to take my call. And it's not that one is better than the other, but what I would tell speakers who are just starting out in sponsorship, it is very unlikely that IBM or Nike is going to sponsor you and give you $100,000 or more to sponsor you. It's just very unlikely. So the better way to do it, the way I teach people to do it, is to start with the small businesses and learn what you're doing. Know how to treat the sponsors and what how you're supposed to give them a great return on investment and work with them. So then you have a portfolio of small businesses that you worked with and you're established and you've helped them. And then when you go to IBM or Coca-Cola, you can say, look, I've worked with 20 different sponsors and, here is what I've done for them. And I know how to treat sponsors. I know how it works. So you just have a much better chance at that point.
I'll say yes to everything you say and say that it's true beyond sponsorship too. When people are getting started in speaking, it is so much easier to get in front of small-ish companies and medium-sized companies when I was doing more team building than speaking, because nobody's referring you to the Baltimore office, capital, across the country. They've got someone in their building at least they can ask about you. So medium-sized and smaller companies are often way easier to get a foot in the door of than the biggest names that you know. Let's talk about that money stuff, because that you brought up that $100,000 number and made me go, I wouldn't mind talking to that company for sponsorship. What's realistic? How much can you charge a sponsor?
Well, see, that's kind of, the people who tell you you're going to get $100,000 from Coca-Cola, it's like being hit by lightning. Maybe it'll happen, but it probably won't.
But I'll take the $100,000 from the vitamin company. I'm really not fussy in that sense.
Well,
the $100,000 figure that
$100,000.
I know you were going big on that, but what kind of expectations do the sponsors actually have?
Well, it really is kind of common sense. And the reason I came up with this in the first place is because there really are a lot of conferences that are going on every day across the country. And basically what happens is they'll get one keynote speaker, sometimes 2 or 3, and then they have tons and tons of breakout sessions. And I don't know if you've ever been paid for a breakout session. I've rarely have been paid for those. Usually they expect you to do those for free.
Yeah, rarely. Once in a while if it's a big enough conference, but it is rare.
Yeah. So, the opportunities for speakers it's enormous. There are a lot of free speaking gigs out there. And mostly that is in breakout sessions, but the breakout sessions don't pay. And so you have to use your common sense and think, is a company going to pay $5,000 for me to do a breakout session? No. And then probably not going to happen.
Right.
Are they going to pay you $500? Sure. That's logical to think that maybe a company, a small business, would pay you that much to get in front of that targeted audience. And here's the trick. Nobody's telling you you can only have one sponsor.
Right, of course.
So I had, with the one member that I had with the vitamin company, he had 6 sponsors. Of course, he did a 37-hour speech.
I thought you meant between one speech to the next you get a different sponsor. You mean you could have more than one for a given speech?
He actually broke the world's record for the world's longest speech. So
well,
he had a lot of time to promote his sponsors.
If you actually weren't able to bring in enough money from a sponsor, is it actually something you could say the next, even with a 1-hour speech, this speech is sponsored by Qualcomm and San Diego Gas and Electric? Is that okay, or the sponsors balk at having to share the space?
The only thing you don't want to do is to have competition.
Of course, yeah.
That's no.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
It's common sense. Don't have 2 car companies,
Sure. Hey, back to Speaker Sponsor, and again, speakersponsor.com for people who are finding this intriguing. Do you take any fee out, or is it just a measure of a membership is how the sponsors find us?
You know what? It is now $9 a month. That's all it is. To be included in the directory, you have your own page, but also if you happen to be speaking on a cause topic like domestic violence or cancer or animal rights or something like that, you can be included in the cause section. It goes straight to your PayPal. This is crowdfunding for speakers. People can donate to your cause, which is you getting out and speaking on that cause, and we don't take a penny of that. We promote you every way we possibly can, and so basically it's just the $9 a month.
Wow. I have a friend who speaks on helping the homeless, and I'm definitely going to be telling him about this. Julie, I want to thank you for being with us here on Full Speech Ahead today. This has been so full of information.
Thank you.
And I want to let my listeners know they can learn more about all that Julie's been saying here, much more than that, at speakersponsor.com, and they can get her book by going to that site or just directly to amazon.com. If you'd enjoyed this episode live, it's going to be on my website for replay by tomorrow, so you can share it with others, along with many of the other interviews I've done and posted at fullspeechahead.com. If you'd like to get notices of other upcoming Full Speech Ahead episodes and see more tips on public speaking and creating a more playful life, sign up for my newsletter at miloshapiro.com. You can also check out that same site for information about my coaching and my training in public speaking for you or your work team. I'm also available for that team building course I mentioned, Teamprovising, where we use games of improv to look at teamwork, creativity, and communication. And my motivational speeches on risk-taking get the whole audience playing those games along. More on all of that at miloshapiro.com. And with that, I am Milo Shapiro, always moving full speech ahead. Till next time.
Got photos that need improvement? Freshen your photo. Old family shots that have gotten damaged? Freshen your photo. Want someone or something removed from a picture? Freshen your photo. At freshenyourphoto.com, we turn the pictures you have into the pictures you want. Add muscle, lose weight, lighten face lines, whiten teeth, fix darker off-color shots. See before and afters from dozens of happy customers at freshenyourphoto.com. That's freshenyourphoto.com.